So Steve, it's good to get back chatting after all this time, but I'm guessing you had 2 games suddenly that we played, and almost like you wish you hadn't after the results.
Well, yeah, it's definitely been a while since we've had the pleasure of sitting down together. We conveniently managed to somehow miss the time where we were second in form team in the league, and now we are right down the other end of the form table. So just goes to show how important momentum is in football, and right now we desperately need to kickstart some.
Yeah, but I mean, there has to be some sort of context to it, because you haven't kept that squad together all that time. We've just suddenly had quite a few departures, and you've had to bring in some new players as a result. But
yeah.
you lost some quality players.
Yeah, we've lost some quality players and some quality individuals as well. Desperately tried to keep the group together because I genuinely believe, let's be honest, playoffs was the ambition. It was an optimistic ambition, but ambition should be optimistic. And yeah, unfortunately, probably the Faversham home game that never was just this kind of last straw for a few of the boys. Yeah, so puts us into a little bit of a sort of tailspin at not a great time, but we're working on it. We're working on trying to get back on track.
Yeah, because you brought in quite a few new players. I mean, do you want to explain to us who you brought in?
Ins and outs. Yeah, I hope I don't forget anyone. I'm going to put them on the spot a bit. So in no particular order, made his debut against Lyd is a young left back stroke centre half called Ed Mayer, who's dual registered from Cray Wanderers under 23s. Guest appearance last night at centre half was a friend of mine called Jack Turner, played with me at Crowborough and Eastbourne Town. He's probably more of a sort of fill-in for midweek as and when required. We have a guy called Jacob El Hadj, who has come in as a holding midfielder or centre half. He's been training with Crowborough, previously with Littlehampton. Tom Jones, keep getting in the not unusual jokes. He's a friend of Harry Hudson's, went to university with him, recently relocated to South London, so he's come in, he's a forward, can play anywhere across the forward line. Matt Black, who's a friend of mine, played with me at Upfield before going off to America doing a scholarship at Vermont. He has had a bit of a knee injury which has sort of affected his season, but he made his debut against Lyd, played against Holland and Blair. Unfortunately twisted his ankle in that game, but he'll be a big addition for us if we can get him on the pitch. And
the other one we haven't mentioned because he's been here a bit, but we've never really talked about him, was Brendan Austin.
Yeah, so Brendan's been with us probably, do you know what, maybe even before Christmas. Probably not had as much game time as he would have liked. But yeah, Brendan's a young, very committed, very athletic. Would probably say that he could play anywhere across the defence. I would personally say he's probably most comfortable as a fullback or a wing-back. Had to be patient. We actually had him in to start against Corinthian away, which was actually our last victory. But unfortunately for him, he went to Corinthian casuals rather than Corinthian on the night. So he was robbed of his debut. And yeah, subsequently he's had to make do with some sub-appearances. But he got a start last night. Obviously not a result that anyone's going to be singing and dancing about, but actually, particularly in the second half, I thought he did okay. There's possibly more. We've had Dan Tier back in training, but unfortunately he picked up a little injury.
The couple of centre-backs you were talking about, was it?
Yeah, probably not right to speak about them just yet, because paperwork is not done, but it's not like we're not trying, but yeah, I think in total, we just spoke off camera, I think we're now up to, including Sige, I think we're up to 9 who have left from the squad that started the season. So yeah,
it's really gutting because we were doing so lot to keep them together.
It's gutting. Yeah, I mean, look, we're all up for a challenge and we're all not looking for excuses, but yeah, I thought this season, with the squad we managed to put together and the pre-season we've had, we're ticking along okay in the league and the Vars. I didn't really see this on the horizon, but you know, life's full of challenges,
Yeah.
so
And
I embrace it.
I think that exhibited on at the Holland of Leg game because you had to start. You were missing a few through injuries away, and you know trying to put a couple of new players in, but it meant you had to change things around a bit just for that game, didn't you?
Yeah, probably started with Lid actually. Yeah, as well. Probably a little bit the same. I mean, Lid was off the back of the Faversham game, so a few of the boys made their decision in the sort of 48 hours following that, which meant the Lid game were a little bit understaffed. Having said that, I was reasonably comfortable with the squad I had up until about midday. I was walking my dog, and I literally got a message from Rory to say that his knee had swollen up, and with photographic evidence. And then about 2 minutes later, Heinze sent me a message to say he was out walking his dog, and he just bent down to pick a ball up, and his knee had locked up. So I don't believe in bad luck.
But I think
The turn of events was pretty dramatic.
Yeah.
So they both turned up, you know, they're good lads, but they were in no fit state,
Yeah.
and actually neither of them are quite right, even now.
it did look like first usually in the first one. We were down to the bare bones.
Unfortunately on that one. That said, we still probably had enough to win that game, except for some.
Yeah,
You know, football's all about moments,
Yeah.
isn't it? And there's no point, you know, trying to dress it up. We've had moments in both boxes in the last 3 games where we've been way below acceptable
Yeah,
standards.
I said, like again on Saturday, I mentioned Lid game, okay, you move on from, but Saturday was a bit against Tom Blair. Was like, how have we managed to engineer to lose that 3-0? And this isn't how they pop it on everything, but it was 2 very average teams, and somehow they've scored 3, and we conceded 3, but not done anything to get a goal back. But again, you know, from set pieces or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, you know, firstly, no one wants to hear a sob story, so credit to Darren and to Richard Stiles, obviously back at the Den. Like, fair play to them. They have come in since we beat Blair 4-1 away. Obviously, they've changed some personnel around. I thought they were a little bit more physical than they were when we played them at their place. But, and again, I am not trying to sugarcoat the situation at all, but we have all the statistics done, and I guess statistics don't mean a thing if you don't put the ball in the net. But Holland Blair completed 40 passes all game. We completed triple that. And, you know, we're not a team that make pointless passes. I actually thought we did okay, played okay.
Yeah.
But in both boxes, Blair had 3 shots on target the whole game.
Yeah, we walked away when we said
We've missed a penalty. We've hit the stanchion from 2 yards out. We've missed a one-on-one at the
because
end.
we did create stuff in that end of
That
the
game, I feel like we had 2 free headers. Heinze had one first half, Jim the second. We had more than enough to win that game.
Exactly.
But football's about moments. They took theirs, we didn't.
Yeah, and again, you come away 3-0 scratching your head, but you know.
We're scratching our head. Geoff was rubbing his.
Yeah,
He got kicked in it a couple of times. So the day after his birthday, top lad. Good to see Geoff. Not good to lose 3-0. And I think if we're going to be brutally honest about it, you know, Lid and Holland and Blair would have been 2 games we were looking at for points. We didn't get them. Congratulations to both those guys. They're both, particularly Lid, scrapping for their lives, and you know, I can't really complain about what happened. We were just not good enough for a 10-minute spell. Last night, tougher challenge, because Punjab are 4th in the league. I feel like they're effective. It wasn't scintillating football from either side. It's difficult circumstances. Don't think Punjab were particularly happy about the pitch. But they were effective. They're strong guys, experienced guys, put the balls in good area, hunt the ball down very hungrily when they didn't have it. They've got a centre forward who's been clinical when he's had his chances, and there's a lot for us to learn.
Again, it's another learn, but they had more control of the game. But when we did have it, we didn't create anything, I felt.
No,
but it wasn't
toothless last night.
It wasn't like they weren't a 3-0 better team than us. Like I said, they were just effective. And somehow we've done it again. We've lost 3-0 through.
I don't think their goal ever genuinely looked in danger. I mean, we had one move where Harry's volleyed it out to the wing, Brendan's took it in his stride, put in a very good ball, Feezy's got a good header on it, and the keeper's made a good save. But to be honest, it wasn't a world-class save. It was if that had gone in, I think a few eyebrows would have been raised, and that was really the only chance we had. I was picking through it with Steve from Kentish Football, and you know, he kind of was referencing a few crosses we put in, and a few. I think you're clutching at straws. We weren't good enough. It's probably the first time I can remember that our attack have either not been given the service or not made anything happen for themselves. And you couple that with a defensive unit that looked very shaky, and you've got a big problem, haven't you? So
because the other thing was,
we'll try and dress it up.
it's not an excuse, but you brought in 5 new players and had players who'd been in the team on the bench. I mean, what was the thinking of that? Was that a response to the weekend? Say, right, well, you guys, Mark, we've got to do something different. Because unfortunately, it didn't work either, which is frustrating.
Well, I think when you look at Babisham 4-0, Whitstable 4-0, Lib 3-1, Holland and Blair 3-0. If you're sitting on the bench watching that happen and you're not getting an opportunity, then sooner or later you're going to say, well, this guy just isn't having me, I might as well go somewhere else. And the amount of games that we've got, we can't afford to be losing people. Some of the boys that played needed a rest. Some of the boys that played Sunday as well, which I can't hold against them. Some of the boys didn't play very well. So for all factor of those reasons, we've given people opportunity. It hasn't really affected the result positively or negatively. You know, it's been exactly the same. We've let in 3 dead balls, and we've had exactly the same problem as we've had in the previous 2 games.
Yeah, and the really frustrating thing was they scored early twice, which sort of killed off the game. But the second half, although they were controlling it, we weren't out of it. And then you think, right, 2-0, if we bring on the subs and you do your usual 4 players that bring on changes the game, we could be in with here at 2-1, because they weren't that great. Let's be honest. Yeah, they beat us, hands up, but they weren't that great either. And again, put subs on, and we've gone conceded penalty straight away.
Yeah.
And the one thing is, the subs made a bit of a difference. We were never going to go 3 goals, whatever, but they might have made a bit of a difference.
Yeah.
And we can't. We go again.
You basically summed it up. You know, we got to about the hour mark. I probably actually felt we were having our most competitive spell of the game. I'm not going to try and claim that we had Punjab on the ropes. I'm not going to try and claim we were cutting them apart, but we were competitive. It was a lot more even game. However, again, you know, I feel like the guys that were on the bench were 2-0 down. If I'm not going to introduce them at that point, bearing in mind we had some good attacking players on the bench, then I'm never going to introduce them. So I've rolled the dice, and I think literally within a minute, Feezy's give away a penalty. And I'm not throwing Feezy under the bus, but it's a fact, and people have to start owning facts. If you're going to not mark players, if you're going to miss your headers, if you're not going to take your chances, if you're going to get sin bin, if you're going to give away penalties, it's going to hurt the side. And until people, you know, I'm not coming in to dig anyone out, I'm just stating facts that we're in a situation where we've all got to stand up.
You mentioned the penalty, but Feezy then goes down the other end and has a chance, and it's one of the few chances we've ever had.
Exactly.
So, you know, it works both ways.
Exactly that, and we're just looking for ownership. We've all got our own, you know, some of the boys that have had to step away, in fact, all of the boys that have left, I respect their decisions. I've got a lot of respect from all those people. I understand. Some of them have got personal situations that are completely unrelated to football. Some of them have just decided there's better football opportunity for them elsewhere. Some of them are actually not playing at all. They've just become a bit fatigued by the old scenario. But what we can't have is people hanging around that want to make excuses and don't want to be accountable for our situation. No one cares that we were the second most informed team in the league. No one cares that we're in the last 64 of ours. No one cares that we were potentially chasing the playoffs. Now all that matters is we've lost 5 games in a row, we've only scored 1 goal, and if we don't pull our heads out our backsides, we're going to get in a relegation scrap.
I think, looking at it from the outside, at least you are trying to do something about it. You're not just sitting there thinking, let's just keep going, we'll be fine, keep going at the end of the season.
Doing what we can. Yeah, we're faced with a tough set of circumstances. Shouldn't really be having this turnover of players at this time. I think it only normally happens if a managerial change has occurred, which at this point hasn't been the case. So yeah, and then obviously the circumstances tie my hands a little bit in as much as who we can get in, but I genuinely believe within our squad there is a 16 that could be competitive with anybody. pretty much anybody in the league.
Well,
But certainly anybody in the bottom
I think
half, up to the playoffs.
it's definitely a case of form, because you look at players and some of them have spells throughout each game where you think, yeah, that's not bad, well done. But it's just the whole team seems to be, the really annoying thing is, just as we haven't sorted everything like the pitch, but it's stabilised a bit, and finally got floodlights on all the rest. Just when that happens, it goes onto the pitch and you've got players leaving, and we have to get back.
And again,
you can't win, can you?
no, you're right, and it does need to be said on in public that actually we did all get very close to leaving, and the club have stepped in at the right time, and a group of people have formed a board, and those people have installed me with a renewed optimism that actually there's brighter times in the future for the football club. But unfortunately, we probably were right at the bottom of the valley at that time, and now we've got to start digging our way out. And like the people that are now putting their time and their energy and their money into the football club, I would dearly love to put some points on the table for them, because they deserve it. But no one gets anything without fighting for it. So that's what we're trying to do.
And I mean, it's like looking ahead to Saturday. We play Lordswood, and look at the table and think, oh, that's guaranteed 3 points at the bottom of the league. But they're doing things themselves and spending money, and so just when we need an easy game, that's going to be a tough game, even though they're bottom.
This league has got no team who are lying down and accepting their fate. The teams at the bottom are generally the most dangerous, and I'll put us in that bracket right now. They're generally the most dangerous because they're fighting for their lives. There's no team cut adrift, there's no team thrown in the towel, and then you've got the teams who genuinely believe they can still make the playoffs. You look at the results last night: Whitstable 6, Holmesdale 1. If anything, it's possibly that band of teams in the middle of the league who might have taken their eye off the ball, might have started thinking we're not in trouble, but we're not pushing. But we haven't got those teams. We've got the teams at both ends. Yeah. So we've really got to up our game.
Well, hopefully, let's see Lordswood we do, and we actually get a win.
That's going to be the aim, 100%.
Cheers.